In this video, I will give you 5 tips to improve your gameplay as a jungler. Take the red first. When using blue buff dependent heroes like Fanny and Ling, it's better to take the red first before taking the blue. Unless, if you are planning to invade the enemy, you can take your blue buff first and then take their buff. The reason for this is that you will be able to contest the turtle. When you take the blue first, it will respawn along with the turtle. When this happens, some players will get stuck on choosing what to take first. Again, this is for buff dependent heroes. When they take the blue first, the enemy will get a position advantage on the turtle, making it harder to contest. When they decide to take the turtle first, they will contest it with a disadvantage because the core user won't be able to perform on its optimal level as it is blue buff dependent. In worst case scenario, the enemy will get the turtle and they will possibly invade your blue buff, leaving your team jungle choked and no turtle. That is why when using buff dependent heroes, I recommend to take the red buff first. This ensures that when the core user try to contest the turtle, it will still have its blue buff effects, which will give their team a fair chance in trying to contest the turtle. Jungle choking. This is a term that I've said earlier. As far as I know, jungle choking is when you see an opportunity to take the enemy jungler's buff and creeps, especially the red and the blue. This will affect the enemy jungler a lot, especially in the first 5 minutes, because aside from it cannot take a lot of gold from minions, you will steal its main source of farm in the early game. If this tip is done right, it will drastically change the outcome of the game because the enemy core won't be much of a threat until it keeps up with the build. So you better utilize that opportunity as long as you have it. Prioritize the marksman. I think that this tip should be included because I observed a lot of people are not paying attention to this. Whenever I'm not able to use core, I use marksman. And what I noticed on a lot of core users are, most of the time, they are ganking the XP lane. This will give your gold laner a hard time, especially when the enemy core decided to gank its lane. There are times that you will have a good marksman teammate who will not perform well just because it is being taken for granted and the enemy core is doing its job. But the good news is, you can reverse the situation by prioritizing your marksman. Don't worry about the XP laners. Most of the time, they are fighters and can stand being alone. The marksman is more deadly and more squishy. In the late game, most of you will rely to them. If you will prioritize something, prioritize the long term. Proper way to take the Lord. This is not the most perfect tip, but I think it will still help some people who don't know what to think when there's a Lord fight. In this tip, we have 2 scenarios. First scenario, your team is dominating. Second scenario, the enemy is dominating. When your team is dominating, most of the time, as long as your teammates are participating, it is a free Lord. When you know that your team is ahead of farm on the enemies, you can all just get the Lord like a gangster because even if the enemies try to initiate a team fight, there is a lower chance that they will win against your team. If this is the case, the confidence is much higher, but you still need to be careful on the enemy core trying to steal the Lord. Second scenario, your team is dominated, which means the enemy is ahead of you in gold and they have much better items. You can't just take the Lord like a gangster because if they start a team fight, your team will do nothing. In case they are already getting the Lord, initiating a team fight is also not a good idea. Because if it doesn't work, it is a sure lose to your team. On my own experience, I think that the only hope in that situation is to wait until you can steal the Lord or wait on the base until they make a mistake. When trying to steal the Lord, look for signals like if all of them are damaging the Lord and no one is giving a vision, or wait until they waste their skills on the Lord. Also, stealing the Lord will be easier if you use high mobility heroes like Lancelot. I hope you get the thought. Actually, we have 3 scenarios, and the last one is that both teams are equal. No one is dominating, and it's a close fight. When this happens, you can choose what to follow between the first and second scenario. Few things need to be considered, like, do they have a tank who can set? Can you defeat them on a team fight? Are you outnumbered? Or are they outnumbered? And many more. If you know something I forgot to mention, you can put it in the comments so that we will know about it too. Utilizing pick-off opportunities. Whenever an enemy gets killed, either you or your teammate did it, there will always be opened up opportunities. Here is an example. You are a jungler and it's past 5 minutes. You will gank the gold lane, and after that, you plan on getting back to your rotation. Let's say you successfully initiated the gank. It is much better if you will not go back to your creeps and just push the turret, because you will get more gold from that. Another example is that you are dealing with an enemy core. When you successfully kill it, there will not be much of a competition. Instead of going back to your objectives, make their farm yours. Which means, instead of going back to take your blue and red buff, just take theirs. That's all of the tips I can give for now. If you learned something from this video and you want more content like this, you can let me know by clicking the like and subscribe button. That's all. I hope you get a good one.